Ryan is going to speak today about diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is a very, very important topic. We all recognize it. And honestly, at times we don't all know exactly how to handle it and handle it properly. Ryan is a former broadcaster.
Yep.
He's a former fundraiser, so he's been in sales. He's currently a faculty staff at Western Kentucky University, and he's very involved on really educating and growing awareness for this topic. And Ryan, I hope I adequately described that properly. But I've known Ryan a long time. Ryan worked with my wife for many years, and we're just really excited. Ryan's going to be on our 10-Minute Trainer Network.
Yep.
So starting Monday, and some of those that have already downloaded the app, you're going to hear from Ryan.
There's also a Speed and Swagger we did not that long ago.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, the 10 minutes flew by, and we probably spent another 30 minutes after we were through recording. I mean, this is an amazing topic, and we can't wait to hear from you.
Ryan, listen, glad you're with us. We'll do a little Q&A with you at the end. Brian, the text number, do we have that back up? Can we get that put back up?
There we go.
Quickly? So 913-303-8729. You can text us questions for Ryan. We've got a couple that some of you had already sent in that we're going to kind of tackle at the end. But Ryan, at this point, buddy, hey, take it away.
Thank you so much.
Right.
As I mentioned, I'm Ryan Dearbone. I am glad to be here with you. I love talking about DEI because to me, DEI is such an important topic. It's such an important thing in this world today, because a lot of times we talk about it, but do we really understand it? Do we understand what DEI means and why DEI is important to us? So that's kind of why I titled this one, Discovering Your Why Through DEI. So as we make sure I got my slides correctly, let's see. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is an activity. And this activity, it's an icebreaker. It allows us to kind of get our minds flowing. So hopefully that will set us up for the rest of the presentation. So what I'm going to ask you to do, hopefully you have some scratch paper with you. Take a sheet of paper, and I need you to make a table, a graph that is 10 by 7. So 10 lines down and 7 columns from left to right. So, give you just a second to do that. And now after you've done that, I need you to write down on the side with the 10 lines going down, 10 names of people that you consider yourself real close to. Now, this cannot be family. So people who are not your family, but people that you are really close to. So these could be really close friends, co-workers, people that you consider to be almost like family, but not actually family. So take a moment and write those 10 names down. If you don't have 10 names, that's totally fine. But if you've got 10 people that you feel really close to, write their names down. Now, once you've done that, up top on the 7 columns across, I need you to write down in each column. So going from left to right, one column is gender. The next column, religious beliefs. The third column, sexual preference. Fourth column, race. Fifth column, political affiliations or politics, whichever one you prefer. Sixth column, age or generation, whichever one you prefer. And the 7th one, socioeconomic status or economics, finances, however you want to slice it. So now here's where the fun part comes in. Look at your list, the 10 going down and the 7 columns going across. To your best guess, to your best estimate, put a check mark in the box of every one of those categories that the person on your list checks off that box. So for example, on the first name, if they are the same gender as you, check mark in that box. Religious belief, check mark in that box. If they're not the same sexual preference as you, leave that box open. So do that for all 10 people. I'll give you just a minute to do that, and then we'll talk from there. And as you're doing it, I'm doing it as well. And hopefully, as you're doing this, you start to see the pieces of the puzzle. So continue to do it while I talk. But as you're going through this, at the very end, once you put the check marks for everybody, I want you to count up the similarities of each box that you have for each person. So count up how many people have the same religious beliefs as you, how many people have the same political affiliations as you do, how many people are in the same generation or age as you. Once you look at this, and you can look at this even after we're done, this breakdown of it, what do you notice? What do you notice about this? How many people are completely alike you? How many of these people look like you, sound like you, think like you, act like you? So as we look at it, what do you learn about yourself from this activity? The goal of this activity is to see how tight of our circle of friends look, sound, and think like we do. A lot of times we don't realize it, but we tend to move in circles of people that look, think, and act just like us. Sometimes we break away and we have a friend or two that don't seem a lot like us, but for the most part, we travel in similar circles because we are familiar with what we know. So did anything from what you learned about yourself in this surprise you? Did you have more diversity in your group than you thought you did? Is your group more homogeneous than you thought it would be? So does anything in this surprise you? So how can we take this activity and apply it to DEI within the workplace? Well, it's simple. Not only do we have a circle of friends that tend to look a lot like us, a lot of times our workplaces, the places where we are the most, look like us. Sometimes it's for comfort, sometimes it's for necessity, but a lot of times the places that we most frequently are in places of comfort where people look, sound, and think and act just like us. So during this presentation, we're going to look at how we can engage more, how we can look outside of that, how we can make our workplaces, our stations, our everyday interactions look different than they do right now. So I'm going to show you a video that talks about what is DEI. So as this video is playing, think about what is DEI and what does it mean to you?
I am indigenous.
I am Black.
I'm Filipino.
I am a Muslim.
I am Scottish.
I'm an Italian.
I am a Latina.
I am a woman.
I am a woman.
I'm a woman. I happen to be a transgender woman, but I'm a woman.
I'm a gay male.
I am a husband.
I am a single mom.
I am a daughter.
I am a grandfather.
An auntie.
A husband.
Business owner.
A musician.
I am a nurse.
I am a sailor.
I'm a proud Asian artist.
I am powerful. I am fearless.
I am the hero of my own story.
I am an activist.
And I'm a very proud Marine and a very proud American.
I am an optimist.
I am an extrovert.
I am a role model.
I am breaking the cycle of poverty.
I am a seeker.
I am a leader.
I'm an advocate.
I am an advocate.
I am change.
I am change.
I am me.
I am me.
I am me.
So hopefully as that video played, you saw the different types of diversity. So sometimes we think of diversity as one thing, but we don't think about all the ways that we could be diverse. So looking at DEI, first of all, a lot of people will look at it and they'll say it's a buzzword. It's a fad, something that has only taken hold or taken root in the past few years. Well, DEI has been around since at least since the 1960s during the civil rights movement. And from there, it has changed names, it has changed forms, it has changed in the thought process of what DEI is. But when you look at it, do you see DEI as a buzzword? When you say DEI, it's a buzzword for something or a fad. Is DEI something that you're proactively doing, or is it a reactive topic? Is it something that is on your mind daily, or you're thinking about it when you're looking to hire somebody, when you're looking to create content that will go out to the masses? Are you thinking about what is DEI, what is diverse, what is equitable, what is inclusive? Or is it a reactive topic where you say, well, after the fact, well, we should have done that. We could have looked at it a different way from a different lens. Do you find it to be a moral obligation? Some people look at DEI as my moral obligation. Why I'm here is to espouse the beauty and the necessity of diversity, why it's important to be equitable and inclusive. So do you see it as a moral obligation in the position that you're in? Or is it simply nothing more than checking a box on a list of to-dos? Now, I might catch a little bit of something for this, but the NFL for a long time has had the Rooney Rule. The Rooney Rule was meant to look at diversity, equity, and inclusion to make sure that African-American coaches or minorities at least got a shot at getting a job. At first, it seemed like it was really being taken the route to do something that was different, and that was to really create an equitable space for all people to get a coaching job. Nowadays, it looks more like a checked box. It looks like the NFL may use it as a box to check off in order to be able to hire the person that they really want. So is it a check box? For some people, it is just that. It's a check box on their list of to-dos in order to make sure they're in compliance with the company they work for or the place where they're at. So is it a checkbox for you? So why exactly does DEI matter? So DEI creates a culture, both in the workplace and in the work product, because homogeneous cultures cannot grow. They stay stagnant. If everyone in the room looks the exact same, where are the new ideas coming from? Where are the new levels of empathy coming from? Where's the new storytelling coming from? And it shows in the work that you do. If everything is cookie cutter and looks the exact same, how are you going to have differences in the way you tell a story? If I'm working for, and I've worked for several TV stations, I can tell you the stations that I worked for, because I was the only Black man in the room, a lot of what I did was a breath of fresh air because I brought in ideas that would not have been looked at otherwise. I was able to tell stories that other reporters or other anchors would not have felt comfortable telling those stories. But because I came in with a different mindset, I knew things that were going on in the community that were not on the general list of what everybody was thinking of. I was able to have impactful stories. One story I did, for example, was the poor, basically the people who are on the poverty line, that you would look at them every day and you wouldn't even be able to tell that they were poor, but because they had nice hair, they had rings, they had all things that people would say, oh, well, they're not poor, but they were the invisible poor. They were the people that lived in slum housing. Those were the people that were largely minorities. But because I was able to tell that story, because I was familiar with the way they lived and the way that they came about being, I was able to tell that story. And because of that, a lot of those people were able to feel proud about themselves and say, you know what, I am being able to show myself to people in the community who would not know about me, people who would not know who I am, that I matter. I'm a diversity that you don't always see, but I matter. It's community changing and community building. We are mirrors of our community. When we are in journalism, when we are in broadcasting, print, we are mirrors of our community. We have the ability to change our community. What we do matters. So when you have a diverse and engaging culture, it is able to be shown throughout the product, and it changes the community. When you hold the light to the people who are trying to keep segregation a real thing, when they're trying to step on the necks of people who are different, when you shine a light on them, it forces change. It forces reckoning, and it creates a community. People will trust you and your brand because they know that you are about your business. You are not doing the status quo. You are not allowing diversity and equitability and inclusion to be hidden, but you're embracing it, and you become part of that community that's being grown. And then educating others on the different cultures, races. It is important to be an educator. That's why, when I talked to Darren, I said, I want to be a DEI educator. It is part of my job to educate people about DEI. Do I know everything about it? Absolutely not. Am I learning about it every day? Absolutely. But what I can be is I can be a voice. I can give what I know to others to share. I can learn from others. I can help to tell the stories of those who can't speak for themselves. And once we educate people about the different cultures, the different races, the different different spaces that we have in our communities, we're able to be that change builder, that community creator. There's no greater gift than to educate. And as journalists, that's what we do. We educate. So if we're not educating on all sides of the fence, are we really doing our job? Think about that. Are we really doing our jobs if we only educate in the homogenous box that we sometimes place ourselves in? So DEI isn't just for the bottom of the workforce. It's from the top down. So look at the group of men to me, it's on my left top. They're all homogenous. They're all middle-aged white men. Look at the picture below them. The newsroom is all middle-aged white men. So what do you think the stories that are going to come out of that newsroom would look like? What do you think the tone that's going to be set in those stories is going to sound like? How do you think somebody who is diverse is going to perceive this group of people right here? How are they going to listen to the stories and feel like they in any way represent them or what they're going through in their life? Simply, they're not. And for a long time, that's the way it looked. The diverse people, the people that don't look like this group up top, would not get served. They would not get serviced. The people in the newsroom would eventually become the people up top. More older white men. No Black women, no Asian men, no transgenders, no people who don't look like the status quo. But then you look at the group to my right, you have more diversity. You have women, you have Black men, you have Hispanics, you have people that don't look like the norm, that are bringing in new ideas, that are bringing in new energy, new information, empathy for people that are in circumstances that don't look like the middle-aged white man status quo. And then look at the newscast at the bottom. That is a mirror of the community that they serve. You see people that don't necessarily look like the status quo. It's more often, it's easier to connect with people when they look like you. As a professor here in broadcasting, I'm teaching classes to predominantly white students, but yes, I have Black students as well. A couple of weeks ago when classes first started, a young Black lady who's in my class came up to me and said, you know what, it's cool that we have a Black professor, because that's something that they don't always see. She's interested in being a broadcaster. She wants to make this her career, and seeing somebody that looks like her makes it more real to her. That she can do this, that she can be a part of this, that one day she can be an anchor. One day she can possibly be a news director. be part of that upper management system and tell stories and be able to make change and create for those who are in the business that we do and the business that we love. So let's find your why. I know my why. Let's find your why. Look past the obvious. There's a need for DEI everywhere. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. DEI is there. If you look truly at the places where you tell your stories, how you stories, DEI is there. It's a necessary concept. It's part of who we are and what we do. So don't overlook it. Don't put people in a box. Understanding the strengths of everyone's diversity, understanding that because of some of the things that people bring to the table, that makes for a stronger product, that makes for a better story. But by the same token, don't say that because they're a Black person that they get to do all the Black stories. Challenge the people that don't look like a Black person to do a story on Black culture, on Black Lives Matter. Challenge people to get out of that comfort zone. It goes back to that circle of friends activity we did earlier. If you allow people to stay in a box, they will just do that. They'll stay in the box. Challenge people. Don't let people just sit in that box because it's comfortable. Because if they stay in that box forever, they're never going to grow and your product is never going to change. You have to understand both the short and the long-term goals and their effects. Understanding that there is a short-term goal. Becoming a DEI culture, becoming a diverse and equitable and inclusive culture doesn't happen overnight. It may take a while. It may take a while to get people to buy in. It may take a while to truly understand what DEI looks like for you. But there are short-term goals you could do. Maybe it's in your hiring practices. Maybe it's in the stories that you tell. Maybe it's in the way you tell it. Maybe it's going out into the community and understanding what the community is looking for and what the community looks like. And then you can build your long-term goals off of that. Being able to navigate the difficulties associated with it. So DEI, as we've said, is not cut and dry. There are going to be people that disagree with it. There are going to be people that don't understand it. There's going to be a hard learning curve. There's going to be times where it's like, man, this is just too hard, or this isn't worth the investment. But I promise you it is, because you are, again, creating change. You're creating a space that so many people need and so many people don't always have. So leadership in this space, you need to be the leader of this. This is your space. You lead. Don't just be a follower, because when you follow, a lot of times you allow somebody else to set the table. You let somebody else decide how your DEI is going to look. You need to be the one. If you're the leader in your newsroom, if you're the leader in your company, you need to be the one who sets the pace. You set the space. From there, your leadership will allow others to follow you. It's just that simple. If you really want to find your why in DEI, you've got to lead from the front. What stories and voices are missing? When you look at your newscast, when you listen to your radio programs, what is missing? Whose voice is missing? Whose voice do you hear too much? Whose voice is missing? And if their voice is missing, why? Who's not being represented? When you figure out who's not being represented, whose voices are missing, that's when you can plug it in. That's when you can make it happen. It's not, honestly, it is not rocket science. It's literally looking at what are we missing. If you're sitting at a dinner table and everyone in the room is talking and having a chance to talk, but you don't feel like your voice is being heard, you don't get a chance to talk, your voice isn't being represented. That's how a lot of people in our communities feel. That's how sometimes our journalists, our reporters feel like, yeah, they're working, but their voice isn't being heard. Let their voices be heard, because you just never know what you might hear and how that might change things around what you're doing. So implementing your why, now that you've figured out what your why is, how do you implement it? First, discuss. Take time to have proactive conversations about DEI. Don't wait till it becomes necessary to have these conversations. Back a couple of years ago when George Floyd, his murder and Breonna Taylor's killing, then all of a sudden the discussion on DEI became hot. Let's discuss DEI. Let's discuss Black Lives Matter. Let's discuss race. Let's discuss all these minority issues that for years we didn't talk about, or we talked about in small measure. We need to be proactive and discuss this before it gets to a point where it needs to be necessary. What are our hiring practices? Are we using DEI in hiring practices? What stories, again, are being told? What is the culture? Are we influencing and creating a culture that is predicated on tolerance and love and inclusion? Are we doing that? Engage. Are we talking the talk? Are we walking the walk? Are we engaging our staff? Are we engaging our community? Are we engaging our shareholders, which are the people that watch us, the people that listen to us, the people that trust us to create this culture? Are we engaging with them? Or are we in our silo and say, oh, we think we know what they want. This is the way it's going to be. Are we engaging people? And then, are we investing? We can discuss all day long. We can engage and find out what people want or what people need. But are we willing to invest? Are we investing the time? Are we investing the effort? Are we investing our own money into it? Sometimes we need to invest more than just a thought, oh yeah, we should do more DEI. We should be better at it. Are we willing to invest? And it goes back to, it's not always going to be easy, but sometimes we need to think past what's easy and think about what is best for the community that we serve. We need to invest. We need to create the culture, and we need to sustain it. Sustainment doesn't happen on a one-time payment. Sustainment doesn't happen because you did something one time, because we hired a transgender reporter, because we hired an Asian producer, because we did a story on Black Lives Matter. One time does not create a culture. It does not sustain a culture. But are you willing to invest over the long term to bring in more people that look diverse, to promote them to places where they haven't been before? To where you're not just saying, okay, it's 2023 and we have our first Black news director, our first Asian general manager, where there is a pipeline for growth, where there is a pipeline for change. And I'll tell you this, some people will say it's like being at a dinner table. Some people will categorize it as, because we're adding new people in, somebody else has to leave the table. Because we're putting in more minorities, more diversity, someone has to leave the table because there's not enough room. I challenge that. I say, get a bigger table to where everyone can sit at the table, where everyone can have that ability to share in the diversity, to be equitable, to feel like, hey, I belong here. And not only to feel like they belong here, but to be inclusive and have their own voice. That's what we need to have. And that's why finding your why, discovering your why is so important. You are the linchpin to making this happen. And until you do, nothing's going to change. DEI won't matter. It will not be a thing for you and for your business, for your employees, for the communities that you serve. But when you do decide to discover your why, you'll see all the benefits that happen from it. I want to thank you for your time and your attention. I hope that we've said something today that has helped you, that has given you something to think about. Again, there is no silver bullet answer, and this does not happen overnight, but hopefully this gives you some steps in order to start the process.
Hey, Ryan, hey, great job, buddy.
Absolutely.
That was well done.
Thank you.
I want to tell you offset kind of what was going on here. So offset, we kind of went through your diagram and your 10 rows and your 7 columns and whatnot. And as we're doing that, I found Speed and Brandis and I ended up here at the flip chart, and it challenged us a little bit to have to kind of look at it. And I guess I would ask you this. You mentioned being proactive versus reactive. With your experience in television and as a broadcaster, leading from then to now, do you feel like in the workplace, are we still more reactive than proactive? And what has to kind of start to move that in the proactive direction?
I think we are still very reactive, because what tends to happen, and looking at it from a journalist standpoint, as well as somebody who's been removed from it and now working in faculty, we become proactive when we need to. So during COVID, we became proactive because George Floyd and Breonna Taylor were out there. Those stories were being told to us. So all of a sudden, as journalists, we become proactive. As business people, we become proactive. I can't tell you, I'm the president of the NAACP here in Bowling Green, Kentucky. So many people were calling me, asking me questions like, how do we become more proactive? How do we become more engaged in minorities and minority issues? Because that was the hot topic. But give it a few weeks, a few months after the story dies down, and we know the cycle of a news story, of a process. Once the story dies down, do people tend to be as engaged, as in ready to make moves? And it tails off, and it's tailed off. So we need to think about it in the thought process of, before that happens, what are we doing? How can we be better at what we're doing? So if a situation like that happens, we're already there. We're not having discussions about who do we need to bring in that is diverse. We've already got a diverse team doing things and being there.
We've had several questions that were texted in. We've had a couple that were sent to us ahead of time, knowing that you were going to be delivering this presentation, Ryan. Speed, you've got one. None of these questions are easy, Ryan, but
right.
They're necessary.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. When Darren handed this to me, I'm like, really? You want me to ask this question? And
Go right ahead.
Here we go. And it says, how do you explain DEI to someone who is not supportive of it because of his political reasons? And what I thought was interesting, and this is what kind of got us all gathered around the flip chart over here, is race wasn't even mentioned until the fourth column over. And there's sexual preference, there's gender, there's all these different things. I mean, 2 decades ago, our industry, you showed the picture, was middle-aged white guys. Now about 70 to 75% of our sales teams are female. Our management teams are increasing. We made some progress, but it's been pretty slow.
Yeah. And so I always, when somebody asks about political affiliation, DEI to me is not about politics.
That was the
It's
question.
a moral thing. It's a thing about, you can have whatever political leanings you want to, but hopefully nobody can dispute that everyone deserves the right to work and live as they choose. And when people try to politicize it, and I've seen it many times, people use politics as an excuse. That's all it is an excuse. If you want to be diverse, if you want to be equitable, if you want to be inclusive, no political party, no political candidate should ever be able to stop you. We're all adults here. We know what's right. We know what's wrong. You can have whatever political leaning you want to, but the moment you sacrifice people for politics, that's when the ship starts to sink.
Hey, Ryan, we're going to go, Brian, get ready on a text question or two, but you and I had talked prior to the event. We were having lunch one day, and part of that conversation, you were sharing some of your experiences as a young broadcaster and some of the prejudice that you had felt. Let me lean on that experience just a little bit, and knowing that we've got more managers today than anything. What kind of guidance would you give a manager in really being aware that there may be situations within their company where that exists, and maybe how they can handle it?
So I would say, when you create the culture where people feel like they can speak freely and honestly, then if situations arise, they'll be able to come to you and tell you, here's how things are happening to me. I shared with you when we had lunch, a station that I worked for, I was doing a story about tattoos. And we're about to go live, about a minute till we go on set. I'm on set next to the anchors. Tell the anchor asked me, so what's the story about? Tell him about tattoos. He says, and this is a middle-aged white man. So he says, oh, do you have tattoos? And I'm like, yeah, I do. I have a couple. He's like, oh, did they have to use white ink in order to put them on you? And he thought it was hilarious. I'm sitting up here, I'm early 20s, young Black man, year or two into the business, trying to figure out at that very moment, we're about probably at that point 30 seconds from going live. How do I handle this and still be professional in my job? And then after I get off set, who do I go to? Can I go to my HR? Can I go to my general manager and feel like my voice is heard? Because I didn't feel comfortable, I didn't go to anybody. So that story capitalizes on kind of what you said. If you create that culture, I should have been able to feel comfortable going to my news director, my general manager, anybody who would have listened and said, hey, this isn't right. This does not make me feel comfortable as a young Black man just trying to do my job and do it at the highest level possible.
And Ryan, I'll look at the columns you gave us, gender, religion, sexual preference, race, politics, age, socioeconomic or finances. There's prejudice in all those columns. In different ways at different times for different people. Listen, this is such a tough topic. Brian, I know we've got some text questions. So
we've got a couple questions coming in. One of them really kind of hits on what you were just talking about, Ryan. So this question was concerning DEI in a business less than 500, right? So less than 500 total employees. The owners have no DEI agenda whatsoever, right? So no DEI agenda. If this individual sets the pace, how does this individual come across? Do they come across as a troublemaker? Let me say that again. So the owners have no DEI agenda, but they're afraid that if they set the pace, that they're going to be viewed as almost a troublemaker within the company.
And that's a good question. Here's the thing about it. Sometimes, and I'm going to quote John Lewis, you have to have good trouble. Yeah. That is good trouble, because the bad trouble is having no DEI whatsoever, because you've got to think about how many people that work for this company that probably feel disenfranchised. They feel like they don't have a voice. Sometimes if you're good trouble, you might catch a little bit of flack for it, but that opens the door for other people to say, you know what, he or she is standing up for DEI. They're standing up for people that don't look like the status quo. And from there, you get conversations going. From there becomes that thought of, hey, we need to think about this in a different way. And maybe we can get with our bosses. Maybe our bosses will hear enough of our voices that they will create a DEI agenda, or they'll at least say, let's bring somebody in to have that conversation about DEI. That person might even become the DEI person for that company.
Ryan, is it fair that for most of us, when we don't know what to do or say, we just do or say nothing? Would you not agree?
Absolutely. That sometimes that's the fallback. We all fall back on that in some way, shape, or form, but we can't do that anymore. We should be past that point. We got to say something or do something in order to make real change.
You know what? You bring up a good point, and this came up when we were together on the Speed and Swagger. There are some times that we're so afraid of saying the wrong thing, we don't say anything, and that's part of the problem as well. But as you put it, you said that's okay. It's okay to say the wrong thing. It happens.
Yeah, I'd much rather somebody say the wrong thing to me for the right reason than not say anything at all. Some situations I've been dealing with recently, there are people who will in private say something to me and say, I really support this and really support that. But what I need for them is to say something publicly, because their voice carries weight like my voice carries weight, or their voice carries weight in a different arena than mine does. But when they don't say anything, I'm left holding the bag. And a lot of people will feel that way. They want somebody to stand up and be an ally for them or an ally with them. It doesn't take much. It's just being intentional about verbally saying or showing, I'm with you and I'm with you. I'm so with you that I'm willing to be up there standing with you and show you how willing I am to support you.
Okay, just a few more minutes, Ryan. We'll let you go. We're gonna before we wrap with Ryan today, Ryan, I'm going to come to you and I want to talk a little bit about what everyone can expect in your role with the 10-Minute Trainer Network.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to do that. We got another text question, but I will share with everyone that's watching right now. Ryan has educated me already. And Speed and I will say at times to those of you watching, we'll say, we're not scared to step on your toes. You know, Ryan's not scared to step on your toes, and he stepped on mine. And he referenced when he was presenting about the conversation that we had, because I was struggling with, are you a DEI trainer? And he said to me, we're not training them. We want to educate them. And that's where Ryan's suggestion was, that I want to be an educator, and that's what he does for a profession, and he does it very well. But this is an education process that we're all, as an industry, as a workforce, as a human race. Ryan, is that fair?
Absolutely. There is no book on how to do this. Even the best, most educated, diverse person is going to make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. What's not okay is when you don't try, or when you learn and you don't reflect what you've learned.
You know, we have on the 10-Minute Trainer Network, you are one of our featured speakers. You've got an entire list of coursework and more coursework coming as we go. I highly recommend, because just what I witnessed with Brandis and Darren and myself, show a couple of your courses in a meeting, all staff, and just let the conversation go. And you're going to get a little bit of everything. And is it a gutsy move? Yeah, it is. But change happens when gutsy moves are made. And
this exercise that we've got on the flip chart over here right now, Ryan, that you began with, absolutely, I encourage this. Speed, great suggestion. Let's do this exercise in meeting rooms across our industry and across our country. And there's no way that good doesn't come out of that.
Hey, which, by the way, Brian was telling me in a break just a few seconds ago that he got one of the, it was a news director from a radio group, said that they would love for you to lead a discussion with their team as well. So we'll start that conversation.
Brian, we got time for maybe one more text question.
Yeah. So on the sexual orientation side, you know, somebody had mentioned, and I'm trying to rephrase this question a little bit, so bear with me a little bit, Ryan. But basically, the question was, they get very confused with, you know, them, they, he, she, especially in email, right? As they're going through that, and almost so much that it triggers them to be like, well, gosh, how do I answer that, and how do I not totally butcher it, right? So we go back to what you said, that, gosh, maybe I just don't do anything at all, or I ignore it, you know, and then it's well, then what if they give me feedback? What if they say, hey, that's not what I want? I mean, can you talk through, you know, what's the best way for us to proceed when we see that, or when we hear that from somebody?
To me, the best way to proceed is to just ask the question, just to say, hey, for my knowledge, how do you want to be addressed? What is comfortable for you? If you ask that question, hopefully they'll give you an answer, because it's important to them too. I'll give you a quick story, then I'll move along. I had a student when I was an adjunct professor several years ago, who identified as, rather than being called male or female, identified as mixed. That's how this student wanted to be addressed. Told me from the very beginning, first couple of days, I'd say miss, because I'm just used to calling a biological female by miss. She corrected me after 3 or 4 times. I got it, because I knew that was important to her. And because the way I identified her, the rest of the class did the exact same. There was never any conversation about it. The rest of the class just followed lead. And the class really you could tell they rallied around her. So if she had an issue or a problem, you could tell the class knew how to handle it because I led from the front. So sometimes you being the leader, you set the tone for everybody else. So if you don't have asked that question, everyone might just feel the exact same way. But if you take that time and you ask that question, you can be the person that leads the rest of the group into that acceptance piece.
Ryan, there's nothing, there's no group anywhere more diverse than a college campus. So you have the benefit of seeing the diversity right there in front of you on the campus. That's much different than a lot of broadcast companies across America. How do we take that first baby step?
By not being afraid to fall. The moment you say, like we've kind of alluded to, it's too hard, it's going to take too much time, too much effort, nothing's going to change. If you're willing to make the sacrifices and to really invest, that's what goes back to the invest piece. If you guys noticed it with DEI, discuss, engage, invest, different than the normal DEI that we've been talking about. If you're willing to invest, good things will happen. That's just that simple. It's being willing to take that first step and things will come from it.
Hey, what can we what can our 10-minute trainer guests and viewers, what can they expect from you in the weeks and months to come?
Well, they're going to expect, hopefully they can expect stuff like this. I'm going to challenge them. I think with everyone I do, I try to have either a question that comes with it or something to challenge them. This is not going to be an easy topic for me or for anybody, but this is going to start conversations and this is going to help people start to think outside of the box. So I hope that's what people get out of it, that they think outside of the box and think about how they could be part of a solution rather than perpetuating and continuing a problem.
Right, Ryan, I would like to just chime in on that. That there's several folks that have chimed in on the text and have just said thank you because you're speaking on behalf of them, right? So I think that it's important to realize that there's those of us that are trying to understand because we're all different, right?
We're flawed
all
humans,
vastly different. All these boxes that we went through, but there are folks out there that also just say, hey, thank you for letting me be heard as well. And so whether or not we look in our room or conference room and see differences in front of our eyes, there are differences that we don't see. And I think that that's the most important thing, Ryan, that you mentioned, is take that leap because there's a lot of stuff that we just don't see with our eyes that we need to realize and that we need to have discussions about. So that was one thing that we jumped on a conversation about, Ryan, a couple months ago when we were talking about everything is just those stories, those real life situations that really cause us to stop and think about that. I mean, I remember when, and I won't share all details, but, when you were telling us a story about, I won't go into the details, you were telling us a story specifically. And I remember I took that right back and I filled those details into my wife and I was like, wow, that's interesting. So those are the things that allow us to change. And we're not saying, there's some questions out there and comments. We're not saying that you have to change your beliefs, right? We're not saying change everything that you are and who you are and what your belief is. No, but just understand that we all do have different beliefs and thoughts and opinions. And, it's a tough conversation, but that's why we feel like it's important to have you on today. And more importantly, have you on to continue to put a bug in our ear, just to have these conversations with folks. And so there are a lot of questions that did come in that I will feed back to you, Ryan. So expect that. So again, if you have questions for Ryan, actually two-prong, let me do this. If you have questions for Ryan, either text those in or you can reach out to Ryan one-on-one as well.
Absolutely.
All right, Ryan, buddy, great job. When you and I first began talking about this, it was long before we're doing what we're doing and looking for a way for Ryan to educate me. But Ryan, I appreciate you tackling a tough topic. I appreciate what you're willing to do in forcing us all to really think a little deeper about how we approach this message and the way we treat people. So any final thoughts?
I would say when in doubt, respect. DEI is born out of respect. Respect for people that don't look like you or think like you or sound like you. If you remember nothing else, if you can respect somebody, then everything else will fall into place, and we'll figure all the rest of it out. And that's part of what we'll do as part of my channel. We'll figure it out together. But respect, do that, and everything else will fall into place.
Hey, Ryan, welcome to the 10-Minute Trainer Network. We're proud to have you as part of that team.
Yeah,
Thank you. I'm glad to be.
And Ryan, in a world where I'm around all these Kansas and Missouri and K-State fans, go Hilltoppers, baby. Go Hilltoppers.
Go Tops.
Yeah, go Tops. All right, Ryan, thank you, buddy. We'll talk soon.
Take care.
All right, bye-bye. Well, hey, listen, I knew Ryan was going to do a great job, Speed.
Yeah.
It's something that we're, you and I certainly, and as our group here, we're committed to trying to do our small part to, not that we're not doing anything to allow Ryan the opportunity to kind of reshape how we all think about this.
Yeah, it's an eye opener for virtually all of us. Every time I've been involved with a conversation with him, he just makes you stop and think. And among those, again, when we looked at that chart he put together, a lot of us immediately go to race. That was number 4 on the list. There was a lot of other items in there prior to it and after that. We have to just treat each other like humans.
So as to remind you, 10 columns, 10 lines down, 7 columns across. Write down 10 people that you know that are in your circle. And then the 7 columns, it's going to be gender, it's going to be race, it's going to be sexual preference, it's religion, sexual preference, race, politics, age, and socioeconomic. And that's how you'll participate in that exercise.
I would put another one there for you, handwriting.
Well, yeah, it's true. My handwriting's pretty poor. So.